Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, May 2nd. We're in May, guys. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, and I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts, CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, and yourself? Not wild about the draft? Are you just tired? What's going on, buddy?
It was a long day. It was a long day today.
Long day, a lot of NFL Top 100 watch, a lot of football discussion had. I don't know about you guys, but I have been responding to questions on Twitter about the draft ever since it started. So it has been it's been a long stretch. Along those lines.
No love.
No
love, guys.
Well, a lot of it's coming through to the official page. But anyway, in those senses, we have a lot to get to today. We have an amazing show for you guys. We are going to, of course, be recapping the NFL draft. We're gonna do our best to try and hit every single team, talk about what their team needs were, what they got, see if they address those needs. We're gonna talk NFL Top 100. I can talk. We, of course, are going to bring you all the top headlines from around the league. So much stuff to get to. I can't even keep it straight. Before we get to that, I know. Is tired or... I'm going to go with that. I'm tired. Drunk? The man is drunk. Wow. With that, though, make sure you guys subscribe to the show. We are here every single Tuesday and Friday. We're a year-round podcast. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, basically any audio streaming podcast service we're basically on. If we're not on one, let us know. We'll do our best to get on it. Well, you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. As I mentioned, the easiest way to get a hold of us is on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. And, of course, if you really want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourself a whole bunch of bonus perks, including bonus episodes every single week, and some cool stuff coming up, like possibly some hangouts and some live chats and getting some questions answered live. Cool stuff like that. So lots of cool stuff coming, and we're going to go ahead and skip right past the warm-up because there's way too much to talk today. We're going to move right into some top headlines from around the league, starting with the league-wide headlines. For starters, after the draft concluded, Buffalo fired their general manager, Doug Whaley. What are your guys' thoughts on this move?
Dougie, man.
Some people contest this was a long time coming.
Yep. I mean, that E.J. Manuel situation, that kind of does it for you. Really
I think it was stupid to do it, after the draft. I mean, I get it. They wanted to keep some, keep some consistency going through the draft. But now this guy went in there and made some very important decisions that are going to impact that team for a while. And the last straw they said was him passing on Patrick Mahomes. And it's like, hey, you know what? you should have maybe figured that out beforehand. Now you went ahead and went through a draft, and then you fire this guy. So now you got to kind of live with what he gave you. Not
the most, I think, anticipated process, one way to do this. Now, there was some news coming out where they actually let their assistant general managers and coaches and other people in the building make some of the moves during draft day to see if they could handle it. And, after reviewing the tape, as we would say, they decided, okay, I think we're all right to move on. So they are looking to fill his position. They like other people that they have in the building. We'll see how they progress. But, I mean, by all accounts, kind of a hard-headed guy. He was really set in his ways, didn't like taking advice or really anything from anyone else. So, though seemingly well-liked, this seemed to have been something that had been coming for a little while now. And, of course, some big decisions that have been made in the past that did not pan out, as we just mentioned, E.J. Manuel being a key one. So, Doug Whaley, he's now unemployed. So I guess we wish him the best. He'll probably land on his feet. He's on the couch, probably collecting a paycheck. Later. Yep. With that, we're going to move into the NFL Top 100 of 2017, which aired last night, and they did a double feature, so we have 20 names to get to, and we're going to be talking about the names, where they finished, if we think that they are appropriately ranked, should they be on this list at all. The first 10 guys is kind of hard to go with because it's usually people who weren't ranked the previous year, so, I mean, it's, kind of kudos. They did mention, however, that, and I think this is appropriate, 101, just missing the list, was Davante Adams, wide receiver, Green Bay, and I am very happy about that with his whole drop costing me another fantasy title. So take that, Davante Adams. You sit on the sidelines. So we'll start number 100, Joey Bosa, rookie defensive end for the then San Diego, now Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously a rookie. You guys think Joey Bosa is deserving of making this list, having missed about 5 games?
Yeah, man. I agree with this. We called this, didn't we? I mean, we
We
said
talked
that
about it.
his impact of what he did, even missing those 4 games, it was really impressive. He helped that Chargers defensive lineman and overall helped that defense. This is well deserved for him.
Well done,
He's a good
indeed.
player, and when he plays, when he's healthy, he's great. And he really impacts the game. He stay healthy though.
10.5 sacks as a rookie, 17 tackles for loss. I mean, the man was disruptive once he got in there. So I would say well-deserved and interested to see how he makes the jump in year 2. And, of course, hopefully if he stays healthy. Number 99, Malcolm Butler, who we are pretty convinced now will be staying as a New England Patriot cornerback. He was unrated last year, which kind of surprised me when I heard about that. I didn't realize that. You guys think Malcolm Butler is deserving of this list? I think he is.
Yeah, he is, man. Very consistent shutdown corner. Very fits well in the scheme with Belichick, man. He's just consistent. He's a guy that's gonna lock down your number one, and it's gonna hurt you on fantasy.
Yeah, he's one of those players that it's a scheme. Like we said before, he's kind of a scheme player. He works well within the scheme that he's in. If he goes anywhere else, he wouldn't necessarily be as good. So I think this is a decent location for him. Not too high on the list, but on the list.
I'm almost surprised he didn't go higher, just being a member of the Super Bowl winning team and having made clutch plays plenty of times down the line. As we talked about in previous episodes when we were sure that he might be moving to from New England to New Orleans, everyone talking about how, this is an elite top tier corner, which we kind of contested. I mean, we said he was very, very good top tier, but not the elite. So I thought he would be higher than this, but I don't hate where he is on the list. So Malcolm Butler, brand new to the top 100. Now, this next guy, I'm sure, is going to have some conflict within the podcast. Adrian Peterson. He had the biggest drop out of any player on the list, and we know this because they told us that. Running back previously of Minnesota, now of the New Orleans Saints. He was number 5 last year. He is now number 98. Guys, Adrian Peterson at 98. Is that justice? Do you think he should have been listed at all? Do you think that he should be higher? What do you think?
I think this is only off of name recognition. I mean, he's just that type popular of a player within the NFL players community, where they just they put him up there, just kind of like how they put Andrew Luck on there when he had that terrible year and he was hurt. This is what I'm feeling like that's coming from Adrian Peterson.
This is rough, man. 93 spots he dropped. I mean, he had a rough year, a rough couple years, and when he did play, he didn't play up to his standard. I still see him as one of the best at his position when he's healthy. So I think he should be higher on this list, but not a whole lot higher. I mean, I wouldn't put him back at number 5 or put him in the top 10 or even the top 20 or maybe even the top 50. So I definitely would say he should have dropped, but down to 90 something, that's a little tough to swallow.
I mean, it's a vote of confidence from his peers. I mean, the guy had 37 rushing attempts in 3 games last year, totaling 72 yards. So, like you said, didn't live up to his own production even when he was healthy. But a lot of that also was that he had no offensive line, so that didn't help. So,
that didn't help at all.
No, not even a little bit. We saw what happened even in his absence. Nobody could get the run game going in Minnesota. So, I think that this is a big vote of confidence from his peers. I'm surprised he made the list at all, honestly. It's definitely, like you said, CJ, name recognition. So I'm okay with where he finished, honestly. So we'll move on. David DeCosto, guard from Pittsburgh, previously unrated. What are you guys' thoughts here?
It's good, man. He's great presence in that Steelers offensive line, man. You see the replays, and he just makes incredible holes for Le'Veon Bell, and you just protect him Ben Roethlisberger. It was just great footage watching him play.
Yeah, solid offensive guard. It's a good place to earn the land. I like it.
I have to watch this guy twice a year, of course, as a Ravens fan, and he is a fantastic guard. Great pass blocker, great run stuffer. He stretches the ball, and he can bounce outside. He can tackle guys. He can block guys in the distance and just help be a lead blocker all the way down the field, almost like a fullback sometimes. So, he's really good. He deserves to be on this list. Number 96, Damon Harrison, defensive tackle, New York Giants, also unrated last year. Thoughts on him?
Awesome. Great defensive nose tackle. He is ridiculous, man. Destroys one person that's blocking him. If you put 2 people on him, he's relentless. he was definitely a key piece on that Giants defense.
That Giants defense really came along this last year, and he was definitely a piece that was important with that. You know, with especially with that defensive line. The line was beastly all year, and this guy was a fixture. So yeah, I like this. I like him being here.
I'm honestly surprised he didn't go higher. I mean, we talked about, as you just said, Jason, the massively revamped offensive line. They spent over defensive line. They spent over $200 million revamping that from 2015 to 2016.
It worked.
This guy,
it worked.
Not a lot of sacks, only 2.5 sacks, only 6 tackles for loss, but he led all defensive linemen in tackles with 55 tackles. So, I mean, the guy is a beast, so I would say he's definitely deserving of this list. The next guy, at number 95, I don't want to say it, Kelechi Osemele, guard for Oakland, previously a Baltimore Raven, so that's why I'm a little bit sour. Yes, he is a freakish athlete monster. He's really a tackle, but he bounced in to play guard, and of course he left because he's being paid as a left tackle playing the guard position, so he's being one of the top paid players at his position and earning that contract. You know, tough-nosed guy, and does basically everything we just talked about with David DeCosto earlier with Pittsburgh. Aggressive, run blocker. He's versatile. He can move in and out. He just likes to hit somebody as an offensive lineman. What are you guys' thoughts?
Just like you said, I love his competitiveness. There were so many highlights where he seeks out. I mean, as a lineman, you're supposed to do that, but I mean, he goes all the way to finishing the play most of the time, putting somebody on his back, and that's something that you want out of your offensive lineman.
Yep.
I love aggressive offensive linemen, and you know, guys that literally punch you in the mouth, and this is definitely one of them. That whole Oakland line, you know, now he's in Oakland. They just get better and better. It's one of those teams. They're starting to remind me of the Patriots. They just keep getting better. So I like him a lot. I definitely think he belongs on the list.
Yeah, another year in Oakland, he's only going to get better. He got better every single year he was with the Ravens. Number 94, Dante Hightower, linebacker in New England. He was unrated last year, which both surprised me, and I'm confused why he's not higher as well, because he's pretty darn good. What are your guys' thoughts?
I second that. I thought he would be at least in the 50s. I mean, because this dude, it was an impact player for this team. I mean, when you got Belichick trading other, you know, great piece in the defense because that guy is talented, but then this guy right here is solid and he fits the scheme.
Jamie Collins you're talking about?
Yeah, Jamie Collins. Yeah. They ship him out. But this guy right here fits the scheme, and he's about the scheme. It's not about himself, he's about the scheme. And this dude makes an impact every time he straps up.
You know, I think that the reason he's not higher is because he's kind of being punished for New England's way that they play. You know, they don't have superstars at positions. They have role players that play their role and fit into the overall machine that is New England. Right. And Dante Hightower is one of those kinds of players. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think he should be higher, but because the team is like a bunch of unsung heroes type of players, I think that's why he's so low down this list.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up where he finished in tackles. I know he wasn't necessarily a leading tackler in the league, but, I mean, the man can do it all. Incredible. I mean, he's good at blitzing. He's great at covering linebackers. He's good at stopping the run. He does a little bit of everything well, and, of course, had a number of impact plays in the Super Bowl. So, definitely deserving to be on this list. We all agree on that. Number 93,
Absolutely.
Brandon Graham, defensive end, Philadelphia. CJ, take it away.
Dude, I love this, man. He's had a ridiculous career of ups and downs, and he just showed out for us last year, and this is well deserved. And I'm just so happy that he's on the list. Great defensive lineman.
Yep, good addition. Nothing to add.
I mean, he disruptive force. What more can you say? A very powerful defensive end.
Yep.
Number 92, another defensive end, this one from Minnesota, who was unrated last year. How is he a multi-time Pro Bowler who has been unrated on this list? Everson Griffin. The guy is a beast. Does it all.
Huge.
Everything. Monster, veteran. He's disruptive. A sack specialist. I don't know why he's not higher. I mean, he helped me win a lot of games last year in our IDP Fantasy League, our League of Record. So what are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, he would get. He would have got even more sacks if their boy Joseph, I think his last name is, I forgot his first name. Joseph, he got hurt at the defensive line, so that hurt them as far as the pass rush goes. But him as a player tall beast of a man, and he is just relentlessly getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, no, interesting that he didn't make the list last year. Again, this just goes to show that this isn't necessarily based on on the way they play. It's more of a popularity contest. So he made the list this year, so good for him. But like you said, multi-Pro Bowler. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's kind of the looking behind the scenes of how this works and how we'll never agree with the list itself. But as long as the guys are named, we're generally happy. Number 91, Lorenzo Alexander, linebacker from Buffalo, was also previously unrated. Another veteran who's been an impact player for a while now. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, how does that happen? That's weird.
It's an awesome player, man. I mean, for his age, this dude is an expendables guy, basically, with his age, man. And he is just kicking butt every time going out there, man. This is well-deserved for him to get on this list, though.
12.5 sacks, 56 tackles. I mean, the guy... He was a bit of a beast.
He's a machine. He's a machine. I don't understand how he's not higher on this list and how he was unrated last year. He's been consistent, and he's a tackling machine. He was a centerpiece in that defense.
22 quarterback hits, 3 forced fumbles, 1 interception. I mean, he's awesome. He's getting paid because he's awesome. And number 90, Malcolm Jenkins, safety from Philadelphia. CJ, take it away, bud. Your guys.
My guy is doing it, man. I love it, man. Get more birds on here. Malcolm Jenkins, look, he's one of the top safeties in the league, man. He's been a heart and soul of Philly ever since he's come there. He's been working great in the scheme as far as just playing the safety role. He plays great down in the box as a corner in the slot. This dude has been Eli Manning's nightmare ever since he came to Philadelphia. So I love it, man. It's well deserved.
I mean, he does everything.
Yeah, he's absolutely all over the place. The guy plays like a maniac. I love it.
Yeah, I thought that the show actually did a really good job of putting into words what I see when I watch the tape. That we say this a lot. People do everything. Well, I mean, in this case, literally. I mean, the guy is a blitzer. He attacks at the line of scrimmage. He's great in pass coverage. He plays like a linebacker. He does a little bit of everything. So he's a great hybrid player. Really, really powerful. A good player. What more can I say? Moving on to the second episode, because, again, doubleheader. Number 89, Thomas Davis, linebacker from Carolina. He dropped a couple spots from 54 down to 89. What are your guys' thoughts here?
I think why he dropped is because, you saw the hurt that defense had when it comes to that corner position. But outside of that, when you could just look at him, he did phenomenal, man. He had that crazy interception that he had that they showed the highlight of when they were playing the Rams, where he basically just went a full 360 turn and got an interception, came down with the ball. This dude is productive, coming back from 3 ACLs. This dude is ridiculous, man. He's a great talent at the linebacker position.
Yeah, I think this is he's being punished for the play of his team. They did not play well, and I think that's why he dropped so many spots. But he definitely deserves to be on the list. He's a dangerous player. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. The overall performance of the Panthers defense probably hurt him here, and of course Luke Kuechly going down with injury. You'd think that would up his production, but it just made it easier to scheme away from one guy, so that probably hurt his numbers. 73 tackles, so that's pretty darn good. But there are plenty of other linebackers out there that are in the 90s and hundreds of tackles, so not the most outstanding stat line. He's not a big sack specialist, but he is a very, very good player. So again, deserving to be on this list. I think everyone that we're going to talk about is deserving, including number 88, Doug Baldwin, wide receiver out of Seattle. He dropped from 72 down to 88, and this is a guy who I think is, on one hand, especially in fantasy circles, getting more and more recognition for constantly finishing as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, just being a pretty consistent force. He can do it all from the outside, from the slot, whatever the case may be. I'm kind of surprised to see that he dropped this year. What are your guys' thoughts?
He's so underrated when it comes to me, man. I mean, when you talk about those top fantasy guys, he's got to be in the top 10, maybe, just because he's just always there. He's always reliable receiver, man. Competitive as crap. I mean, very savvy and shifty, man. His tape is just ridiculous. A guy that you got to start paying attention to if you've been like, well, you know what? What's going on with Doug Baldwin? This is a great year to look at his tape and go, like, this is a guy I might have to put up higher on my board because this dude is always productive.
A lot to add there, Jason.
I really I watch this guy twice a year, okay, and
that's why I was waiting for your input.
What's that?
I said that's why I was waiting for your input, because you probably see the most tape on him regularly.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it into words because he's a thorn in the side a lot of times. However, we also like to put Patrick Peterson on him, and when we do that, Patrick usually shuts him down. But for that offense, he is the deep threat. He's the guy that you have to watch out for in the pass game. So I agree with CJ. I think this is terribly underrating him. He is a wide receiver 1. He finishes that way pretty consistently. So he should be much higher instead of lower. And again, I think he's being punished for the way that his team played. You know, they're not flashy, big throws down the field type of team. So I think that's why he's so low on this list.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Graham, of course, more of a red zone threat, and Tyler Lockett, more of a speedy, a guy that they're trying to more, put on the outside, where they kind of move Doug Baldwin all over the place. And that's why I think his value should be higher, because he's usable in so many other aspects of the passing game. Personally, I've never been the biggest Doug Baldwin fan for fantasy, but at the end of the year, his stats are there, and you have to respect that. Like you said, he's finished high in fantasy the last 2 years in a row, so it's not a fluke if you're doing it consistently. Number 87, Travis Frederick, center for Dallas, the only center on the NFL Top 100, and I mean, the guy is, just the idea. You hear about a hard worker, and they talk about this guy because this guy, they say, is the hardest worker on the entire Cowboys team. So what are you guys' thoughts?
One of the Cowboys' biggest chess pieces when you look at all the talent they got there, you got to look at that offensive line. You got to look at that center position. You look at the tape when they're talking about him and all of his accolades, man. This dude just opens up so much holes at that center position, man. And he's so athletic, and he gets to be able to get down the field. All of that stuff right there is just the build in the making of a great offensive lineman and a great center, man. This dude is ridiculous. And I hate Dallas. And I just have to just sit there and admire this dude's work because it's good. And I can't fake it.
There are 31 other teams in the league that would like to have this guy as their center. So,
right.
Oh, yeah.
Putting that out there.
I mean, dynasty. They say that the champions are built with the defense, but dynasties are built with the lines, offensive and defensive lines. And Dallas has a fantastic offensive line, and this is one of the reasons he anchors that line at center. And centers are the captain of the line.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that offensive line is just beastly, because this guy is anchoring that, and he is a fantastic center. So definitely well deserved.
All right. Number 86, Jarrell Casey, defensive tackle, Tennessee. This guy was unrated last year, which, again, snuck by me somehow. How is Jarrell Casey going unrated?
Because people are stupid. People are stupid because you watch the tape. You watch the tape. This dude is always there. A thorn in every offensive coordinator's side and offensive line coach. This dude makes plays. He gets to the quarterback. He just ruins people's run game. And this is a guy that you got to stop disrespecting. And he needs to be top when it comes to IDP, because what is IDP about? Getting tackles. And tackles make points. And points is good for fantasy. This is a dude you need to look out for because he's always there making plays.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's popularity contest, maybe. I think he should have been on this list before, and he should be a bit higher on this list. He's a very, very disruptive player. So nice to have him on the list. Should be higher.
I thought he made the list like 2 years ago, though.
He did 2 years ago, but he missed last year. I don't remember why he missed last year. Maybe there's a reason. Was he hurt in 2015? I don't remember. Have to go back and look, 'cause that's the only thing I can think of. Number 85, Chandler Jones, linebacker, Arizona. Yeah. He dropped quite a bit, though, from 48 down to 85. Jason, take it away.
That's annoying. Yeah. Again, I think this goes back to team play. I mean, Arizona did not play well this year. Only won 7 games. It was pretty awful, and that translates directly almost to I think anyway, to this drop from 48 to 85. He is a monster. Okay, the guy is a Swiss Army knife. He can drop back. He can go get the quarterback. He can stuff the run. He's extremely intelligent. The guy is pretty much becoming the centerpiece of our defense. And then you got Marcus Golden on the other side, and with the two of those beasts coming after quarterbacks, have actually led the league in sacks last year. Okay, and the only thing that changed was we brought in Chandler Jones. So he should definitely be higher on the list just because of that. I mean, look at what he did for our team.
Yeah,
I agree with Jason, man. This dude, I had him on my fantasy team, IDP, and just watching that every single week, seeing the production that he got. I mean, this dude, and I feel like it's only going to be better because Arizona did get some great picks in the draft this year, and I think that's going to definitely affect his production, and it's going to increase. And I think this is only a good thing, and you're going to probably see even better year from Chandler Jones this year.
He's a massive stat producer, great IDP option, and great addition. And I think another year in the system, he's only going to get better in Arizona. Number 84, right. Mike Daniels, defensive tackle, Green Bay. He went from 95 up to 84, the only player on the list for these first two episodes that actually improved his stock. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't go higher. He's known as kind of the hard-nosed, hard worker on that defensive line in Green Bay. You know, he talked a lot about how he's a grown man and people try and go away from him. And I agree. Yeah. He's intimidating at the line. He likes to talk a lot of trash, but he backs it up. What are your guys' thoughts?
I love him just because of that. He trash talk, but when you trash talk, you gotta have that cash, like I say, in the bank, so you could be able to make a withdrawal and back it up. And he has the money every single time. This dude's out there. I love that game that they played 2 years ago with him against Minnesota, and him just manhandling Adrian Peterson and just telling him, man, you don't want it. You need to go to the other side because you don't want this work. And every time it happened. It is. I love Mike Daniels. It's so good.
Yeah, disruptive player. Like I said, especially defensive linemen. I love defensive linemen that have a mean streak, and he definitely has that.
I don't think anyone could deny that. Number 83, Calais Campbell, defensive end, now of Jacksonville. He was 71, dropped down to 83. Jason, I'll let you take this away.
Oh, man. Dude is an absolute beast. He was the centerpiece of our defense for years. Just a genetic freak. He's massive. He's like 6'9", 300 pounds, fast for his size, gigantic long arms. He was a run stuffer like crazy. He could get to the quarterback. I mean, the guy does it all. And not only that, he's a leader in that locker room. He leads the defense through his actions, and he's a soft-spoken leader at that. So I love me some Calais Campbell. I miss him. We're going to miss him all year. But Jacksonville has himself one hell of a player.
Every time I'm looking at the film, man, he reminds me of the Juggernaut because he's just so freaking big and so long. Yeah. It's ridiculous. One of the offensive linemen was talking about him. It was just like, he's just unfair because his get off, and then when he finally stands fully up and he's charging at you, he's already had two hands on you, and then he's already ripping you off in 2 seconons. And then the quarterback is crying for his mommy because he's already there.
Well, when you throw the ball, too, I think he led the league in batted down passes.
Yeah.
Because the dude's 6'9".
Yeah.
You know, and he lifts his arms up, and he's like 8 feet tall. And what do you do? You know,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, he's disruptive force, does a little bit of everything, and he looks like a grown man out there playing with children. He's just massive.
That's exactly right.
Number 82, Clay Matthews, linebacker, Green Bay. He dropped from 57 down to 82, and kind of surprising, but I also kind of feel like he had a little bit less productive of a year, so I think it's kind of justified. What are you guys' thoughts?
I agree with you. I mean, it was injuries, you know, and it felt like he just missed it this year. But man, he made plays though. He made plays, and he's one of those guys where you gotta be respectful to, because this dude, he finds a way to get to the quarterback every single time. I mean, when you get your position switched, when you go from the line and you go to linebacker, and then you just dominate, and then you can go back and do the same thing. That's something you gotta be just shock and awe about. And how productive he is when he does it. It's crazy.
I mean,
and he's one of those people that's the face of that defense, the face of that team, really. And I mean, yeah, like you said, they moved him to a different position. He was just as disruptive, you know. And it feels like you could move him to punter, and he would still be able to just disrupt things and just be able to have a huge impact. So he's one of those players that just is undeniable, and you always have to know where is Clay Matthews at all times.
Right.
I mean, other team definitely schemed away from him. Yes, injuries did not help. He was banged up the majority of the season, only played in 12 games. But he finished the year with 20 tackles at a linebacker position, so that kind of has to add to the decline. He did get 5 sacks, though, so I guess that's pretty good. 3 passes defended. He did get a forced fumble, 9 quarterback hits. So, I mean, disruptive, but yeah, definitely a big decline on his stat line, which probably led to his drop here on the players list. And then number 81, Alex Smith, first quarterback that we're mentioning, quarterback Kansas City. He was 81 a year ago, and here he is at 81 yet again. So, guys, Alex Smith, a guy who does not like to be called a game manager, but people would say that's probably what he is because he takes low-risk throws.
Captain safe, captain game manager. That's what this guy is. I mean, but you look, it's so mind-boggling because the offense looks so boring when he's there. Though I mean, it feel like it could be so much explosiveness there and get some more risk. But that's just not Alex Smith. Alex Smith's game is just what it is. He's a game manager, and when he's doing that, he's productive. He's doing great work for you in fantasy. But he's just not that guy to go to the next level and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and throw this 40-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill and see if he gets it. But no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just go ahead and do this 5-yard pass to Travis Kelce and let him take it for 15 yards. That's just him. It's Alex Smith.
You have to look at what they've done, though, too. I mean, they've been successful. They're good every year. They make the playoffs every year. So, I mean, yeah, we can say, oh, he's a game manager and all that kind of stuff. But he may be a game manager, but he's managing that game pretty well. I mean, they're winning games. I think I'm concerned he's going to get annoyed, with all this talk and with the drafting of a quarterback and all these things that happen. And he's going to start throwing the ball down the field and getting interceptions because he's like, all right, I'm going to throw the ball down the field. I'm going to throw the ball down the field.
You don't know unless he tries, though, Jason. He would never know unless he tries.
This is the thing. Again, he's winning games playing the way he's playing.
Right, he's winning games.
I mean, when you win double-digit games every year, why change the style of play?
Because, Jason, you're not winning the big game, though. I think now we're talking this. And I love this because we're talking about reality now. I love this is a fantasy show, but we're talking about reality. Reality. Alex Smith is not winning the big game for Kansas City when it comes down to him.
Is that his fault? Is that Alex Smith?
You're the quarterback. You're playing at the quarterback position. Yes, it is your fault. You're throwing the ball.
So every game you lose, it's the quarterback's fault.
When it comes to him in this offense, and we talked about this when it came to the last time when they played the Steelers, that was not his fault. He played a great game and he kept them in the offense. Their defense slacked down. So I believe that is the one occasion where you can be able to excuse Alex Smith's game manager play and say that this dude, that's not his fault. It was the defense, and then it comes down to that poor penalty when it comes to holding on Eric Fisher.
I'm just going to say this, and we're going to move on because we're wasting too much time. In 4 years that he has been in Kansas City, the 2 years leading up to that, they were 7-9 and 2-14. He gets to Kansas City with Andy Reid, 11-5, 9-7, 11-5, 12-4. Made the playoffs 3 of those 4 years. So, I mean, no matter what you say, there is a drastic increase in production on that team. Yes, he's not that elite quarterback. He's not going to be that guy who you're going to be leaning on to necessarily bring you back with 1 minute left having to drive the length of the field. He's not quite that guy, but it is a team sport. Yes, the offense runs through the quarterback, but it's not just him. And I think that he is a very good, I mean, we talk about how we judge quarterbacks off of him. Are they better or worse than him? I mean, that's not a bad spot to be, is a reliable, good, consistent quarterback who's not going to make the decisions that sinks your team. So, with that, we have to move on. So we're going to move into some more of the top headlines from around the league. Now we're going to move on to the quarterback position, where Jacksonville has picked up Blake Bortles' 5th-year option. You guys like this move?
I mean, I think it's a one more chance for him to impress, Tom Coughlin. I mean, because I know Tom Coughlin doesn't believe in him.
Well, he hasn't had much to believe in yet. I mean, Bortles had a rough year last year compared to the year before. So, I mean, Coughlin wasn't there the year before. So I would love to see a fully, healthy Blake Bortles and see how he does it. And maybe we'll see them extend him again.
Well, I mean, they picked up the fifth-year option, which is good. So now they have him for this year. They're going to have him next year. So I think it's a vote of confidence for Blake Bortles. Though, I mean, even though they picked it up, there's no dead cap if they cut him. So it's not necessarily a huge loss. But it is a big price increase on the cap hit. He's going to be going from making as far as against the cap, $6.5 million this year to $19 million next year. So there's still a good chance they might cut him. But, I mean, if he works out this year, I mean, they'll probably keep him. So we'll see how it all plays out. You know, we got a whole year to see how it works out with a new head coach, guy, a shadowy figure who is controlling the team from behind the scenes, and, you know, just a new attitude in Jacksonville. So, I mean, we know they have the pieces, just can they put it all together? And I know people contest one way or the other, but if you watch the tape, I mean, all the injury news came out after the season, but that's true for a lot of players, and you could see a notable difference in his mechanics. So I think if he does the offseason work, he could get into a good form to be, I mean, he finished as a number 1 quarterback for fantasy. I think he can get back to being a valuable real-life quarterback as well. Let's see. The Chicago Tribune reports that starting quarterback Mike Glennon felt, quote, cheated on, end quote, following the Bears' trade up for Mitchell Trubisky. Now, what are you guys' thoughts on this? I kind of think it's hilarious, and like I said, I don't think Mike Glennon is the long-term answer there. I've been anti them giving Mike Glennon this contract since it happened. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, saying that he's not the long-term answer there and pointing at Mitchell Trubisky as the possible long-term answer, that's stupid, because we know just as much about Trubisky as we know about Glennon at this point.
I agree.
He hasn't thrown the ball that much down the field, so we don't know what the long-term answer is going to be at quarterback. Now, I kind of agree. I didn't like what Chicago did, and primarily not because of the fact that they took Trubisky, but how they did it. You know, we'll talk about that later. But I understand why Glenn is upset. He should be upset, and he has every right to be upset.
Yeah. I think Mr. Glennon is, you know, he's in his feelings. I understand. And I mean, you come to Chicago, they're selling you on a dream of you being the white knight to come in and save the city, and then they go ahead and just go pick up Mr. Prince Charming and leave you with some rust buckets as your armor. So I can understand that you being a little upset about this, but dude, come on, buddy, you're Mike Glennon though. You got to understand. I'm looking at this tape. You're not really standing out to me, so I got to go out there and make a splash. I got this whole city on my back. They don't believe in you. I mean, so I got to bring in somebody that will maybe bring in some competition.
No, he's getting booed throwing out first pitches. So
right, you know what I mean? I got to get some fire in there. Maybe there's a warrior inside of you, but I just need to bring a little heat to bring that out.
Well, I think this is just like what I said back a couple episodes ago before they even drafted Mitchell Trubisky. This is the best thing that front office could do to cover their own butts. Now, I think that they were dumb for moving up one spot and giving away so much capital to get Mitchell Trubisky when they could have waited and gotten any of the other guys and been in the same boat. I mean, if they like Mitchell Trubisky that much, I guess you do what you got to do to get your guy, but they gave up a lot to move up one spot, which kind of has made them more or less the laughing stock of the league. We will. We'll be talking about that for probably quite a while. Let's see. Cody Kessler is expected to be Cleveland's starting quarterback going into the season. Ouch. It is, quote, his job to lose. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
He didn't play that bad,
probably will lose it.
He didn't play that bad, though. I mean, he looked... okay, look, I'll be honest. He looked scared when he was back there.
Yeah.
But look, you got to get thrown into the fire to see what you got there. So, I mean, look, he's got experience under his belt now. Maybe he can turn it around and, you know, do some good things for this offense. I mean, they got some nice pieces on there, and, you know, maybe he can roll with that. I don't know.
Well, Jason, do you think that this is, you say not for long, do you think he's going to lose it to Kaiser or to Osweiler?
I think he'll lose it to one of them. As bad as Osweiler is, I think that the faithful in Cleveland are going to start clamoring to see something new. And I think it'll end up being Kaiser eventually. Kaiser's not ready. I mean, he is not ready to start yet. And the fact that he's running around telling everybody that he's going to be the greatest of all time, and he's Tom Brady's brain and Cam Newton's body and all this other stuff shows that he's not ready, because he hasn't been hit by one of these NFL linebackers.
Not yet.
You know, first time he gets put on his butt, he's going to be like, you know, Cam Newton's body really hurts right now. You know, so
wow.
I don't. But the problem is that Kessler, he's not good. I'm sorry. I watched his tape. I don't think he's good. He makes bad decisions. He's not accurate. So I think eventually he's going to lose that job. He may even lose it during OTAs and minicamp. I mean, it's not good. So the question is going to be what happens. You know, what's going to happen with you? I don't think they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks going into the season. I think they're going to carry 2, and it's just a matter of which 2. Kaiser's going to be there, but is it going to be Osweiler or is it going to be Kessler?
Well, they'll probably try and keep the other one as a practice squad guy to bring up in case someone gets hurt. So we'll see. Pittsburgh releases backup quarterback Zach Medenberg after drafting rookie Josh Dobbs. So is this surprising to you guys? Do you think they would have at least held on to him as a camp arm to see how it all shakes out, or does this make sense to you guys?
Makes sense.
Jason?
They'll probably bring him back as a camp arm. I mean, that's usually what happens is they'll release him, then they'll bring him back as a camp arm. But it doesn't surprise me at all that they cut him to make room.
I guess we'll see how it all works out. Moving on to running back news. Former Kansas City running back Jamal Charles is scheduled to meet with Denver today. So what are your guys' thoughts on Jamal Charles potentially becoming a Denver Bronco? This has been, quote, seen as a good fit for him.
I'm confused when it comes to this because you got C.J. Anderson there. He's coming off an injury, so he's coming back a little healthy. You're good to see what's going on there. Then you got Booker there. So I mean, I'm a little confused about him being there and then that being a good fit because what is he doing? Is he coming? He's coming in just to play the role, or is he competing to start?
Well, by all accounts,
he'd be the starter.
Well, no, by all accounts, they really like C.J. Anderson. They're going to probably use C.J. Anderson as the first and second down back. Jamal Charles will be that pass-catching third down back. They're done with Devontae Booker from a lot of reports coming out of that camp. They got a good look at him last year. He drastically underwhelmed when he got a chance to start for about half the season. So it looks like they're ready to move him down in their starting roster and possibly off the team as a whole. They're looking for a guy, in case C.J. Anderson also goes down, a guy that they know can shoulder the load and be productive, and they think that could be Jamal Charles. There's, of course, reports saying that he might also land with the Packers, so it'll be interesting to see, though I don't see Green Bay necessarily. I mean, they drafted, 3 running backs, so we'll see how that shakes out. But
as good as C.J. Anderson is, though, if Jamal Charles ends up in a Denver Bronco uniform, he's the starting running back.
It depends.
He's just a better running back.
Yeah, I don't know, Jason. I mean, he's been more healthy than Jamal Charles. He's been more productive in that offense, so they already know what they have there.
A very bad offensive line. I mean, they made some moves to fix that in the draft, but a bad offensive line and a guy who needs space to be productive, where C.J. Anderson is more of that downhill runner that can make, break a tackle and make an opening where there may not be one. So Jamal Charles, of course, much older, where I think they're going to use him in more of a reserved role. So kind of a home run hitter type option. So we'll see how it all. This could be all for nothing. He might not get signed there. We'll see how it all plays out, of course, within the next couple days. Houston head coach Bill O'Brien hopes that third-round rookie running back Donta Freeman will, quote, spell Lamar Miller at times when...
Deontay Foreman.
I said the wrong name. Deontay Foreman.
I was like, did Freeman get traded to Houston?
No, I typed the wrong thing. Yep, surprise!
That's all right.
Thank you, Jason. Donta Foreman will, quote, spell Lamar Miller at times when Lamar Miller needs that. And I actually think this is really good news. I'm not worried about him taking production away from Lamar Miller because Lamar Miller is a very, very good running back and he's being paid to be that guy. But you saw it last year. They were running him into the ground where even a big downhill back would have shown wear and tear, and it just kind of caught up to him. So I think that if they have a change of pace guy, give him some breaks, and you never want to hear that for fantasy, but you also want your fantasy star to be there for you come week 13, 14, 15, and so on. So I like this move because they really needed that piece there, especially if they're going to have to be a run-heavy team again if they don't address that quarterback position adequately this offseason. What are you guys' thoughts?
I agree. I like Deontay Foreman. I like the talent that he is, and I like to see him on the field. But I agree with you. I don't think that he's going to eat too much into Lamar Miller's production. He might. He's a good talent. He might get pull a Tevin Coleman on you, like Devontae Freeman is. He has that potential. He's a good running back, but I think at first you shouldn't worry about that.
The only thing that I could see that could possibly be an issue is Foreman's a bigger back, and he's going to be more of a between the tackles guy. So he might end up scalping a couple of touchdowns. That's the only thing that I would be worried about right now. But this is his rookie year. I definitely think that's what they're going to do. They're going to use him to spell Miller, see what they got in him. Miller will still be the number one overall guy.
Yeah, I agree that he would excel more, probably from the 20s in the red zone. But in between the 20s, I think it's definitely Lamar Miller's show, and they're not going to want to necessarily trust a rookie unless he really starts showing well with the ball in those situations, in scoring situations. They don't want to give that up. So we'll see how it plays out. But as of right now, I like this because Lamar Miller needed some help there. Let's see. Ryan Matthews has been cleared to resume workouts, of course, recovering from a neck surgery. So, CJ, what are your thoughts here?
I think that I know I've been adamant about, in the offseason that, he's probably going to cut him. It makes more sense. I mean, it saves room from the cap, and they can be able to use that money for somewhere else. But the more this is dragging out, I'm thinking that he's probably going to still be on the team. I mean, when he was healthy and not fumbling the ball, I mean, he was productive in the offense, and he was making good plays. And Doug Peterson said he likes him and everything. So I think he's a body that might stay and still be somebody that you can look at mid rounds for fantasy, and get a part of this Philadelphia Eagles run team.
Yeah. Jason? No, I agree. I mean, he's going to know more about the situation than I am for sure. But yeah, it's just going to depend. I mean, he's going to need to pass those physicals and make sure he's good to go for the season. But yeah, that's fine.
Well, I mean, obviously the team didn't do anything until the fourth round as far as bringing a running back in. So it seems like they're going to be definitely. Yeah. So I don't see you guys cutting him. But, you would know better than I would at this point. I haven't been looking into the situation post-draft that closely yet.
It makes more sense and money-wise if you did, but I understand what you got there. I mean, he's the only, starter that has experience at the position. I mean, you saw what you had in Wendell Smallwood, and, yes, he's coming off an injury, and maybe you believe that he can be able to take that next step. But I don't think you're going to make that big decision, without bringing in some legit starters that potential starters that can be able to shoulder that load. I don't think they have that right now, so that's why I think that he'll probably end up staying there.
Incredibly talented when healthy. Moving on, New York Giants head coach Ben McAdoo calls Paul Perkins his starting running back. You guys think that he holds that job?
Yeah, I mean, he's what's that?
I mean, this is your guy, so I thought you were going to take the lead on that one.
Oh, yeah. No, remember, there's a lag whenever you guys ask me a question. Yeah, I can see that. Paul Perkins they really are very high on him. They really like him. He played very well. He was very productive when he played last year. And people were clamoring for him to kind of be the guy because Jenkins wasn't getting much done. And when Paul Perkins came in, he was productive. He played very well. And when they upgrade that offensive line, if they upgrade that offensive line, he's going to be even better. So I can definitely see him being their starter.
Until they sign LeGarrette Blount. So we'll see.
Yeah,
how
if they do, you're going to go with Blount. If you sign LeGarrette Blount, you're going to go with Blount as your starter. But as the team sits right now, Paul Perkins, I think they'd be completely comfortable with him starting.
Yeah. I agree. They liked him last year. Green Bay released running back Christine Michael. This guy is being thrown all over the league.
There you go.
Head coach Mike McCarthy insisted that Ty Montgomery is still the team's starting running back, though, even though they drafted 3 rookie running backs with Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Mays. So what are you guys' thoughts on this? Do you think that this is a good vote of confidence for Ty Montgomery, or do you think that this is, it's getting a little bit crowded there?
It's getting a lot of crowded. I mean, I know they're going to Ty Montgomery, we talked about this before. If he's going to be your lead back, he's got to put on some weight because those hits were wearing on him, and then when it came to playoff time, he was already done. I mean, it took like maybe 1 or 2, and then he's hobbling and stuff like that. So that's a little concerning to me when it comes to fantasy because I need to see him with some more weight because I don't think he'll be able to shoulder that load with that weight that he was playing as a wide receiver.
He's got the frame of a running back, but he's got the body and, as you mentioned, the weight, the build of a wide receiver. He's got to put that on to have any longevity at the position.
Right. Now, these guys that come in, this is going to be a good time for you to get your number 2 pencil and some notes and watch some preseason game and be able to see which one of these guys might be able to step out and be a potential starter for this team that can compete with Ty Montgomery. So
But Jamal Williams is a beast. So I could definitely see Williams coming in and possibly taking that job. And it's kind of hilarious to me that McCarthy is like, no, Ty, you're the starter. You're the starter. No, ignore those three guys. You guys sit down. You sit down. No, you're not going to stay. You're going to come on over here and stand next to me. You guys sit down now. It's kind of funny. But at the moment, I understand he's got the experience. If he puts on a little bit of weight, he's going to be their guy. But eventually, I think he's going to end up being a change of pace back if he stays as a running back at all. And I think Jamal Williams will probably win that job.
Okay.
We'll see. No wide receiver news. A little bit of tight end news. If you follow us on Twitter, we broke this a while ago. Cleveland released tight end Gary Barnidge post picking David Njoku in the first round of the draft. So Gary Barnidge, after welcoming David Njoku on Twitter to the team, was released about 12 hours later. So... do you think Gary Barnidge
Palmer.
Nope.
Excuse me.
Stop it.
Griffin Palmer.
Because
how in the world I welcome
CJ.
David Njoku and now
CJ.
I get released? What is this?
First of all, you would not talk to me like you're the boss of me.
I
all right?
will.
I will reach across this phone and snatch the white right off of you. All right, you will not do that.
He's doing bits from NFL media. We'll do our own stuff. But do you think he lands on his feet? Do you think he
Yeah.
You think that he gets picked up by somebody?
He needs to be on the team. He needs to be on the team. He's a talented tight end that's incredibly productive. He needs to be on the team. He will.
Where do you think he goes?
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Off the top of the dome, let's go. Let's go to Frisco. They need help. Let's get him into Frisco.
You think that they're going to be wanting to sign a guy who's going to be 32 years old at the beginning of the season?
Why not? You're already signing terrible quarterbacks to throw the ball into the dirt.
I can't really argue with that. All right. All right, so with that, we're going to move into our topic of the day, which is our draft recap and review. Now, we're going to go through this kind of rapid fire. We're going to try and touch on each team, what their needs were, who they picked, if they addressed those needs, and we're going to move on. We're going to do much more in-depth breakdowns over the coming weeks, and if you guys have specific questions or thoughts or concerns... Hey, send us a message. Patreon, we're going to talk about it more. Send us a question on Twitter, so on and so forth. So we'll start, of course, with the AFC North, and alphabetically, we'll go with my Baltimore Ravens. Now, my team needed wide receiver help, linebacker, cornerback, offensive line, and defensive line help. They drafted Marlon Humphrey, who's a cornerback. I'm going to murder a lot of these names as we go, so I'm just going to need you guys help. I know my guys. Tyus Bowser, outside linebacker in the second. Chris Wormley, defensive end in the third. Tim Williams, outside linebacker in the third. Nico Segura, offensive guard in the fourth. In the fifth, we got Jermaine Alumador, offensive guard. And in the sixth, we got Chuck Clark, defensive back, who's a safety. I think they addressed most of their needs.
I know you said you knew your guys, but that man's name is Nico Saragusa.
Ooh,
what did I say?
You just got owned.
You said Sergoa or something.
Wow. Yeah, Segusa.
What you doing, guys' names?
Okay. You know what? I'm terrible with names. I know the players. I know their tape. I know their backgrounds. I know their stats. I'm bad with names, so sue me. They address basically every single one of their needs except for wide receiver. We have possibly our best with our free agency moves as well. The best secondary we might have ever had as a team, including the 2000 Ravens. We addressed our offensive line in a draft that was really weak with offensive linemen. We got, we got the aforementioned guy who is a guard center hybrid. We're going to possibly, unless we can sign a free agent, move him possibly to center. Obviously adds depth to the offensive line at guard. And Alumador is going to probably end up being a guy who we're going to try and develop into a tackle. So we'll adjust our two biggest needs on the offensive line, center and tackle, and just a lot of defensive back help, outside linebackers, pass rushers, things that we needed. So now we're just in desperate need of a wide receiver, and I think we're going to probably go out and get a Anquan Bolden back and probably wait for some other cap casualties to happen. So
Anquan Bolden come back to the Ravens?
I hope so. I think that'd be nice. Any thoughts? Or are we ready to move on? We're going to rapid fire.
I think you hit it in the nail on the coffin. You guys did good. I think I like Malcolm. I like Humphreys for you guys. I think he's a great addition to the team and to play on the other side of Jimmy Smith.
Yep.
And you just picked up a bunch of defensive players that I think people will hear about 2-3 years from now and then say they were great picks.
I like them. A lot of upside.
I think that down the line, you're going to see Illuminor as kind of being the gem that you guys picked up. Because I think he's got the ability to be very, very productive. But I don't think he's going to be – it's not going to work this year.
No, I think he's a project. I think he's going to be a 2-3 year project. Yeah. I mean, he's got the size, the build, the strength, but he was, as we kind of talked about in our private chat during the draft, he's a very polarizing player. There were some people who loved him and his upside and as a prospect. There are people who loathed him and said, we're not drafting him because he's so raw. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We're spending too much time on one team. We got 31 other teams to hit. We'll move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they drafted John Ross, wide receiver, Joe Mixon, running back, Jordan Williams, outside linebacker. They got Carl Lawson, outside linebacker, Josh Malone, wide receiver, Ryan Glasgow. Yeah, I don't really know how to say his name. Defensive tackle in the fourth.
Glasgow, actually, I'm sorry.
In the fifth, Jake Elliott, who's a kicker. They, in the fifth, also got J.J. Dialman, I think is how you say it, a center. In the sixth, they got Jordan Evans, a linebacker. In the sixth, they got another running back. Well, sure. Brandon Wilson, running back. In the seventh, they got Mason Schreck. I think that's how you say it. A tight end. So they addressed almost all their needs because they needed running back, wide receiver, defensive line, offensive line, and linebacker help. So they actually had a pretty good draft. And they got, though I think they reached for John Ross, they also snatched Joe Mixon. Do you think they reached for Mixon? Because there was only a handful of teams that even had him on their list. And they went and they snatched him in the second.
I think,
hey man,
I don't think. I'm sorry, Jason. I don't think that was a reach when it comes to Mixon. I think, I mean, there was reports saying that they were really interested in this guy, and yes, the people had him going in the second round. And I think if he probably would have waited a little longer, he was going to get picked up. I know Philly was a team that was interested in him. There was other teams that were going to pull the trigger. It was just, a lot of teams just felt that it was more comfortable taking them in the second round versus the first because, all the off-the-field stuff.
Well, there was a lot of reports of people saying that, there was only, we talked about surveys that we heard about from like Ian Rappaport and stuff saying there's only about 4 or 5 teams that even had him on their board, and a lot of them were thinking second round might still be a little bit too rich because of the off-the-field problems. Like third, fourth round was where he was becoming more projected as we got closer to the draft. So maybe a reach, but they got their guy, and I think this kind of spells the end of Jeremy Hill. So he's going to go in there and be the starter for sure. So
it's going to be great.
They got two first-round talents there. I mean, they got 2 first-round talents that both of them have question marks. Joe Mixon with his off-the-field issues, and John Ross with his medical. If those things pan out and they don't end up missing time, they got themselves 2 extremely dynamic offensive weapons.
Now, I will say their biggest need was guard and tackle, and they did not draft either of those things. They drafted a center. So this team is still going to be...
He can also play tackle.
Yeah, I believe they got those pieces already there. I think you don't make moves like that without believing that you got in-house guys that can be able to fill that role.
They were rated as one of the worst offensive lines last year, and they lost their 2 best pieces. So I don't necessarily agree. Yeah. They drafted the center, which I guess could bounce out to tackle. I haven't seen any analysis on him doing that, so maybe you know better than I do, Jason. I haven't researched this guy very much, but they still have a lot of need there on the offensive line, so that's definitely a weakness for them, which I think is, them taking these skill players early is going to be kind of tough for them to utilize if they're not able to get the offense rolling. We talk about how you need to win in the trenches all the time. Moving on to Cleveland.
Yeah, but you also... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you want to say more, or do you want to move on?
No, I was just going to say, you can't draft purely for need, because if you draft some of these guys that were not ready to be drafted, then you're going to end up with, oh great, well we didn't upgrade our offensive line because we got players that are just as bad as the guys we already got.
Yep. All right, moving on to Cleveland, who actually had a really good draft, but if they didn't, I would have been kind of surprised because they have so many draft picks. Now, they were listed as needing a quarterback. They needed a defensive lineman, linebackers, corners, and safeties.
They needed everything.
They really did need everything. Those were their 5 biggest needs. That's basically what we're doing here, top 5. In the first round, they actually did it. They drafted Myles Garrett, which was smart. They got another first-round pick in Jabril Peppers, a safety. They moved back up to draft, as we talked about previously, David Njoku, who we had as the second tight end, but he went third. In the second round, they grabbed their another backup quarterback, I should say, Deshaun Kaiser. In the third, they drafted Larry... I don't know how you say his name. Larry Gojabi? Gojabai? I don't know. Defensive tackle. Kajobi.
Ojanobi.
You would know, Jason. Maybe I should have you do this. In the 4th, they drafted Howard Wilson, cornerback. In the 5th, they drafted Robert Johnson, an offensive tackle. In the 6th, they drafted Caleb. No, I know. I got Caleb. Brantley, I think is how you say his name, defensive tackle.
Yeah.
In the 7th, Jane Gonzalez, kicker. And in the 7th, also, they got Matt Days, who is a running back, which I don't know anything about. I did not even look at tape on him. So they filled all their needs except for linebacker right now. So they're looking improved. CJ, you ready to get back on your 8-win thought process, or do you think that this is still kind of a team that needs some help?
Offensively, with the quarterback situation, it's still a little sketchy. But I love the additions that they did on defenses. I think they hit every need, and they got Greg Williams pieces that he can be able to make this defense very competitive.
All right. So
these guys got 3 of my absolute favorite players in the draft on their team. It amazes me. Myles Garrett and Jabril Peppers, both amazingly dynamic defensive players. That defense is already scary to look at. And then Zane Gonzalez is a 6-foot kicker out of Arizona State, extremely accurate, lots of power. That's another nice little offensive weapon for them to have. And then, of course, Njoku and Kaiser eventually will probably pan out to be extremely good players. So great draft for Cleveland. They're doing it right.
Yep. Moving on to Pittsburgh. Final team in the AFC North. Now, they had most people said a pretty decent draft. They went and they got TJ Watt, outside linebacker, in the 1st. In the 2nd, they drafted wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. In the 3rd, they got cornerback Cameron Sutton. In the 3rd, they also got running back James Conner. In the 4th, they got quarterback Joshua Dobbs, which I didn't see them doing, honestly, but hey, they did it. In the 5th, they got defensive back Brian Allen. In the 6th, they got long snapper Colin Hulba? I don't know anything. I didn't look at the long snapper, so I don't know. And in the 7th, they got outside linebacker Keon Adams. So what are you guys' thoughts here?
They got a really nice piece in the 2nd round. Juju Smith-Schuster is a very good, tough wide receiver. TJ Watt, I mean, we know the brother, we know the pedigree, we know how much he loves to play football. He's going to be a very dynamic outside linebacker for them. I think that was a good pickup for Pittsburgh, and he really does fit that Pittsburgh mentality. James Conner, I think 3rd round is a steal for him. He's actually I had him rated in the 2nd round. Pretty good running back. I think he's going to do really well for them. He'll be a nice piece to kind of put behind Le'Veon Bell. And Josh Dobbs, extremely intelligent. This guy is like an astrophysics major. So very intelligent. He can process information quickly. He's got a decent arm, good stature. So he could work out pretty well whenever Roethlisberger decided to hang it up.
Yeah, they are listed as needing quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, linebackers, and cornerbacks. They addressed all those needs but tight end. But, I mean, hey, if Ladarius Green is able to get his act straight, they don't really need a tight end. So I guess we'll see how it all shakes out. Moving on to the NFC North, we start with the Chicago Bears, who had a lot of needs. I mean, obviously a team that didn't finish very well last year. They needed help all over the board at quarterback, at tight end, at linebacker, at safety, at offensive line, at corner, and they addressed only a handful of these needs. They actually gave away most of their picks, as we talked about, moving up to draft in the 1st round. One spot moving up to draft Mitchell Trubisky. So I guess that's something. In the 2nd, they got tight end Adam Shaheen. In the 4th, they drafted safety Eddie Jackson. In the 4th, they also got running back Tariq Cohen. In the 5th, they got guard Jordan Morgan. So not a great draft. A lot of people are saying that they're big losers. They didn't even address cornerback or linebacker. So without obviously spending too much time here, we all agree.
That's a big bust. I like Adam Shaheen, and I'm sad that he's on Chicago because that stink is just all over him, and it's going to be bad.
Well, he's starting behind Zach Miller also, so I mean, I don't think he's got much chance of being too productive until Miller inevitably goes down. He gets hurt every year.
Yeah, man.
The most solid pick they made was Eddie Jackson, safety out of Alabama. He's a good safety, but good God, man, moving up one spot to take a guy we're not even sure is going to be able to have a decent enough floor to play in the league.
San Francisco are the king trolls of the draft this year. 3 days before the draft's coming out saying, we might be interested in Mitchell Trubisky, and Chicago bit. And, of course, we talked on Friday's show when we were recapping the first round, of course, all the news that's saying that they not only want to make sure they got their guy, they want to make sure that nobody traded up ahead of them to get Mitchell Trubisky. And, they mortgaged the farm. They gave away picks from this year. They gave away a pick for next year. So, Chicago, they were had a little bit here. So, they better hope Mitchell Trubisky works out, or there's going to be you would think, some cleaning house in the front office there.
And they need to. They need to clean house. That's ridiculous.
I think the sad thing is most people agree with that sentiment.
I love the guy. I love the general manager when he's calling Trubisky. He's like, "Okay, I want you to come. I want you to come to camp with that same Toyota Corolla that you drive. Okay, all right. We believe in you.
Wow.
We believe in you."
All right, moving on to Detroit. The Detroit Lions, they needed not a ton, but they could use some upgrades. They needed wide receiver help. They needed tight end help. I don't disagree with that, though. They needed linebacker help, and they needed defensive line help. Now, in the first, they got linebacker Gerard Davis, which was a pretty good pickup, I would think. Second round, they got cornerback Tabor. Is that how you say it? I've never known how you say his name.
Tabor.
Tabor? Oh, I was more concerned with the first name than the second name. Look at me. I'm just failing all over. In the third, they got wide receiver Kenny Galladay. I think that's how you say it.
Galladay, yeah.
I didn't watch much tape on him. I don't remember much about him, so I don't really know how much he's going to help. But you probably know better than I would, Jason. In the fourth, they got Go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I was just going to say he's a big Anquan Bolden type of guy. Runs through tackles. Hard nosed, loves to just hit people.
No, okay. I don't know why I didn't see any tape on him. That's weird. I don't remember. Maybe I did. I just don't remember. I watched a lot of tape. In the fourth, they drafted linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maben. They also got tight end Michael Roberts. In the fifth, they got cornerback Jamal Agnew. In the sixth, they got defensive end Jeremiah Ledbetter. Ledbetter. It's a weird last name. And they also got quarterback Brad. How do you say that name? Somebody help me. Kaya? Isn't it two A's? Doesn't you say the A? Isn't it Kaya? I don't know. And in the seventh, they got defensive end Pat O'Connor. I'll take your word for it.
You got that one.
Yes, I hope so. So they addressed all their needs, but they didn't really necessarily have any, including a tight end. But we're gonna do winners and losers on Friday. But I like that they didn't draft a tight end high. I still have faith in Eric Ebron this year. So
why?
Because he's going to be good, CJ.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure he will. Jared Davis pick. Honestly, I think they could have gotten him later. They probably could have traded back. And really, Reuben Foster was on the board, and I get that people were a little concerned about him, but that would have been better value there than Jared Davis. They should have backed up, I think, to get him. Keith Tabor's got some issues too that they have to worry about. I really, really like the Ledbetter pick. He's an SEC guy, big body, really good defensive end. So they got real value in the sixth round. So overall, it was a decent draft.
I agree. If they had traded back, as long as they picked before the Saints, I think they would have been okay getting Jared Davis later in the round. All right, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers needed some help mostly on the defensive side. Of course, we knew about running back. They needed some offensive line, more reinforcements than anything. They also needed defensive line, linebacker, and cornerback help. In the second round, they traded out of the first. They got cornerback Kevin King, so I think that was a pretty decent pickup. In the second, they got safety Josh Jones. In the third, defensive tackle Montavious Adams, I think is his name. In the fourth,
good job.
Yay! In the fourth, linebacker Vince Beagle. And running back Jamal Williams. In the fifth, they got wide receiver D'Angelo Yancey? I don't know. They also got running back Aaron Jones. In the sixth, they got center Kofi Amikia? I don't know.
I believe it's Amikia.
Here we go.
I didn't pay much attention to the centers when they got that deep. He wasn't even ranked. Boy. I'll put it that way. So.
Boy.
Yeah.
I was looking at skill positions. I was trying to focus for fantasy. In the seventh, they got running back Devontae Mays and Malik Dupree, a wide receiver.
Malachi.
I like Malachi Dupree.
Doesn't matter what you like. The man's name is Malachi.
I know. He's not going to be a starter. He's a 7th round
Oh my
Start calling you Griffin just so that I like it better.
pick. He was the 247th pick. Kill me. So they addressed all their
really
needs.
I actually really like Malachi Dupree. I think he was underrated. Decent speed, decent size. So that's pretty good value in round 7.
You came straight out of freaking American Dad with that one.
I was gonna call you Skittles.
Skittles.
Oh, I love American Dad. All right, moving on to the Vikings, where they needed some help in some various places. Of course, we know running back. I don't necessarily believe that they needed because they signed Latavius Murray, but apparently they weren't big believers because they made some moves. They also needed offensive line help, defensive line help, linebackers, and safeties. Now, in the 2nd round, they traded up to grab none other than Dalvin Cook. So they got another running back there, which makes that backfield even more cluttered. We knew that they needed a lot of offensive line help. They addressed the center and Pat Elfine, whatever. Is that right? F-line. Oh, there's an L in there.
Elfline.
Elfline. It's hidden. I don't know. Maybe I need to get my prescription checked.
Yeah, it's a hidden L.
The worst part is, I was watching him like, I'd really like to get him in the 3rd, but they grabbed him in the 3rd, so whatever. Yep. In the 4th, they drafted defensive tackle Jalen Johnson. They also got inside linebacker Ben Gidon. In the 5th, they got wide receiver Rodney Adams, and they got guard Danny help me here. Isadora. In the 6th, they got tight end Bucky Hodges. In the 7th, they got wide receiver Stacy Coley. They also got, they had so many 7th round picks. Defensive lineman, tell me how to say that name, Jason. If 80 Obendigdo.
This is the show.
Oh my God.
This is the show.
This
I've said many a time,
Odenigbo.
Sure it is. I've said many a time, I'm bad with names.
Odenigbo, actually. Odenigbo is the last name.
We'll figure it out. It's going to be one of those names that as he makes more of a name for himself in the league, we might get. They also got linebacker Elijah Lee and cornerback Jack Toko. All right. So they addressed all their needs but safety. So I don't know. I think they needed a little bit more help on the offensive line. They got one center, one guard. So I guess that'll help the run game if they're good. Not
a lot of help to be had on the offensive line in this draft, though. And they've got arguably the best center in the draft.
Yes.
They may have overpaid a bit for him, getting him in the 3rd round, but that's pretty decent. As far as finding a gem in the draft, in that, like we were saying, there was like 19 offensive linemen taken in this draft, which is the lowest in history. So, the fact that they got one means that they were thinking about it.
Yeah. So the Vikings still needing some help in the safety market. Any more thoughts on the North before we move on?
Get better.
Wow. Okay. Moving on to the AFC East, we have the Buffalo Bills, who were listed as needing quarterback help, wide receiver help, tight end help, linebacker help, and cornerback help. And they had they made some moves in this draft. It was they almost all of their moves were not originally where they were supposed to be. Of course, they traded back in the 1st, and they got Tre'Davious White, cornerback. In the 2nd, they got wide receiver Zay Jones. I think that was another good pickup. So I think those were 2 good moves for them. In the 2nd, they got offensive guard Deion Dawkins, who was pretty good. Another
good pick.
They didn't have a pick again until the 5th, where they had 2 picks. Linebacker Matt Milano and quarterback Nathan Peterman. Which is I don't know much about him as a prospect as far as his chances of being any type of starter in the league.
He's got an okay arm, not a great arm. He played in a pro-style offense, so he's going to be a little bit more NFL-ready than the other guys that were drafted. But overall, I see him more as kind of a high floor, low ceiling type of guy.
All right, and in round 6, they got linebacker Tanner Valajo? I don't know.
Vallejo.
Sure it is.
Sure it is.
It's a pretty deep pick, not a highly rated prospect. I didn't watch enough of his tape to get his name down either. So they addressed all their needs but tight end. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts here? Do you think that they did a good job filling in a lot of their needs? Of course, with Stephon Gilmore leaving, they had to go corner high, especially when all the quarterbacks, which they were being linked to, were gone early on.
Yeah, I think so. I like the cornerback pick. Tight end, I think you can, probably get by another year with Charles Clay. But everything else, I like the additions that they did. And, Sean McDermott, I like the additions he brought in the defense.
Zay Jones could be a nice sleeper option opposite of Sammy Watkins. So
Good. Oh, I believe he would.
They're going to get some shots at some veteran tight ends, too. They're going to be available. I mean, heck, Gary Barnidge is out there now. So,
hey, look at that.
Maybe a location for him to go. But the only issue I have with Zay Jones is a fantastic pick. You guys know I was very high on him. Yes. He's going to be a nice piece for them to add to their offense. The only pick that's a little questionable to me is the Deion Dawkins pick, just because round 2 is way high for him. He's good. He was a very good guard, but round 4 I think would have been better. They didn't have a pick in round 4, so that's probably why they went with him in round 2.
It was their last pick before the 5th, so it was their last chance unless they traded down. So, I don't know. I guess they had to do what they had to do. I mean, they needed help all over the place. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins, who were listed as needing help at offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, and cornerback. And they started off in the first round drafting outside linebacker Charles Harris. Wow, I just stuttered. In the second, they drafted Yeah, I know. You think that would be an easy name. Tongue-tied. Now, this next one, they got linebacker Raekwon. I got it. McMillan.
You say that like you always get it.
Thank you, such confidence.
I am really good at this. In round 3, they got cornerback Corderia. Tankersley, something like that.
You got it.
You got it.
He's a really, really fast corner. Shut up. From Clemson. In the 5th, they got offensive guard Isaac. Shut up.
Come on. You got it.
Asiata. In the 5th, they got.
Look at you.
Yeah, we know Asiatas. In the 5th, they got defensive tackle Davon. Jeez, God.
Come on.
These are not real names.
They are real names.
Someone's messing with me.
This is like that Key and Peele sketch where they do all the football names, only like he can't say them.
Yep. I got this next one. In the 6th, they got defensive tackle Vincent Taylor. Hey! They needed help there. He's a pretty decent one for that late in the draft. And in the 7th, they got wide receiver Isaiah Ford. So, all in all, they addressed all their needs. So, what do you guys think? Do you think the Dolphins had a pretty good draft here?
I think that was okay.
Yeah, Charles Harris is an excellent pick. Raekwon McMillan is a solid linebacker. I think he's going to be really good for them. And Tankersley he's a great, fast corner. So, and they got him in the 3rd. So, pretty good. I thought they did a good job.
I mean, they found a good job finding a physical wide receiver in the 7th who, I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a fantasy contributor, but he'll probably be a good downfield blocker if they end up using him. Let's see. We were just on the Dolphins. That means we're moving on to the New England Patriots, who did not have many picks because most of their picks they traded away for players who they knew were going to be starters and immediate contributors. So their first pick wasn't until the 3rd round where they drafted defensive end Derek Rivers. So, I mean, he was actually a pretty good guy who... He was kind of polarizing. Some people really liked him. Other people didn't like him. But, hey, if New England has done anything well, it's finding these kind of rough gems. They also got offensive tackle Antonio Garcia in the 3rd. In the 4th, they got defensive end, how do you say that name again?
Dietrich Wise.
Dietrich? That's just a weird way to say Dietrich. Dietrich Wise. Interesting spelling. And in the 6th, they got offensive tackle Connor McDermott. They were listed as needing running back help, which I disagree with entirely. Defensive line help, offensive line help, linebackers and corners. They did not get running back, cornerback, or linebackers. So I, again, don't think that this is real at all because they got corners and running backs in free agency. And, I mean, I think they need more depth at linebacker. They've got their starters. Yeah. What do you guys think here?
I agree with you.
Killed it with Derek Rivers.
The draft? Oh, Derek Rivers? Oh, yeah.
they killed it with Derek Rivers.
Yeah.
I mean, third round for this dude, 41 sacks, speed around the edge. They got themselves one heck of a steal in the third round. So I don't understand how they keep doing this, and I'm starting to think there may be magic involved, and I think we need to look into it.
Merlin magic.
We found yet another way that they're cheating. Supernatural forces. I don't know.
Supernatural forces. That's what's going on.
Moving on to the New York Jets, which needed a lot of help. This is a team that is very commonly being linked, as the NFL Network media likes to put it, as a scam for Sam candidate, trying to get Sam Donaldson as their quarterback next year. They needed help at quarterback, at tight end, on offensive line, at linebacker, at cornerback. So they started off strong. They got arguably the best safety in the draft with Jamal Adams in the first. So, solid pick. He's going to be a key piece for them for a while. They went safety again in the second, where they got Marcus May. Interesting. I didn't expect them to go back-to-back safeties, but I don't know. Who knows? They're going to do what they're going to do.
They upgraded that secondary with the first two picks of the draft. They upgraded that secondary.
Yep, I agree.
So that's good.
They also, in the third, they went and they got wide receiver Ardarius Stewart, which I don't know how much he's going to be a contributor right away, because they've got plenty of starters. Same with wide receiver Chad Hansen, though I do think that this move on two wide receivers in the third and the fourth, plus the guys that they have already with Robbie Anderson, Quincy Nunwa, we've heard about how they're looking to purge more cap space and how Eric Decker might be a casualty. So they've been adding some depth at the position. It's looking more and more likely that it's a possibility. In the fifth, they got tight end Jordan Leggett. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
With two G's and two T's. Interesting. In the fifth, they got defensive lineman Dylan Donahue. In the sixth, they got running back. If I do this enough, I'll get good at it. Elijah McGurry. McGurry, right?
McGuire.
McGurry? Oh, I didn't see the I.
Elijah
McGuire. It makes sense now. Vowels.
McGurry.
Vowels are helpful for pronouncing names. God. Look, I did not see any tape on him. I'll be the first one to admit. I didn't see any tape on him. He's a super, super buried running back.
Tape?
Because I don't know the names. I'm bad with names. I don't know the names unless I've done the research. I didn't see any tape on this guy.
This is going to be a 5-star show just because Griffin just butchers names.
Jeremy Clark? Jeremy Clark? Is that who that is? Jeremy Clark.
Sixth round, they got cornerback Jeremy Clark. Clearly, that's his Clark.
There you go.
And in the sixth, they also got defense back. Wow, I can't even read what's in front of me. Well, he is a defensive back. Cornerback Derek Jones. So they addressed their needs at cornerback and tight end and did not touch quarterback, linebacker, offensive lineman. So I would say not a strong draft as a whole, especially for the needs of the team to be a competitor this year, despite what's being told to their first-round picks.
I agree.
I mean, like I said, I love the two safeties. You got your strong safety and your free safety, because Marcus May is a free safety and Jamal Adams is a strong safety pretty much. So right there, like I said, they automatically upgraded their secondary. I don't like Ardarius Stewart, especially in the third round. He drops the ball a lot. He's too small. He's fast, but not... like you said, it was just an okay draft. It wasn't anything that's going to put them on the map this year.
I think that was a gadget player for him, but Stewart.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they do something.
They got Leggett though. Leggett's a good pick in the fifth round, I think.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean,
they need a tight end. They don't
use their tight end, so
they don't use it. So you might as well bring some talent in there so you can use it.
Maybe. We'll see. Moving on to the NFC East, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who had needs mostly on the defensive side. They needed some wide receiver help and some tight end help, only because I think that Jason Wooden is getting to the point of where if he gets hit right, he might shatter. He's getting up there.
Only hope.
Well, I mean, of course you would say that. They need a lot of help on the defensive side, though, at defensive line, safety, corner. They started off with Taco Charlton in the first round, defensive end.
Hey,
in
Jason.
the second, they got cornerback. Why are you saying, hey, Jason? Chidobe Awazi. Third round, they got cornerback. That's Jordan. That's the weirdest spelling I've ever seen. Jordan Lewis.
I know.
In the fourth, they got wide receiver Ryan Switzer. In the sixth, they got safety Xavier Woods. In the sixth, they also got cornerback Marquise White. They got defensive tackle Joey Livy. I don't know. Set in the 7th.
I think that's Ivy.
Is that an I?
Ivy.
Oh, that is an I. That's not an L. George, that makes more sense. Joey Ivy, defensive tackle. In the 7th, they also got wide receiver Noah Brown and defensive tackle Jordan Carell. So they addressed all their needs but tight end, and most people are saying that they had a pretty strong draft addressing their needs directly. I mean, a lot of high grades as well. I would say they reached on a couple players, but as a whole, pretty good draft for what they needed.
Pretty solid draft.
Does that pain you to say, CJ?
Yeah, it does.
Pettiest
I actually like
analyst.
your draft. Xavier Woods, I was a big fan of Xavier Woods. I thought he might go a little bit higher in the draft, but 6th round is pretty good value, right? They got some power positivity on that team. Look at that. Taco Charlton is a monster. We've already talked about him. He's going to be just wreaking havoc. They got two pretty good. Actually, they got 3 corners, 2 really good corners. And like they said, they needed a lot of help over on the defensive side, so that's really good. And then, of course, Ryan Switzer is going to be interesting. He's a little guy. He's kind of a smaller guy. So
5'8", 181.
Guy. Yeah, pretty tiny for a wide receiver in the NFL. He's going to be a gadget player. They're saying he's going to be the heir apparent to Cole Beasley, but he's even smaller than that. So I don't know. We'll see how they use him.
I guess we will indeed. Let's see. Moving on to the New York Giants, which they were listed as needing a lot of help. I don't know how much I buy all of it. They said quarterback, which obviously they're looking for an eventual replacement. Running back, offensive line, tight end, defensive line, and linebacker. So a lot of listed needs. And they had not many picks to work with. They, in the first round, of course, which was very strange, but I mean, I think he could be a big asset to what they're doing there. They got tight end Evan Ingram over David Njoku, which we talked about a bit on Friday's show, which I think was kind of surping. Agreed? Or do we still feel that after letting it sink in for a little bit?
A little reach.
I agree, Jason. It's a little bit of a reach, but I think that he's going to be dangerous in the offense. I mean, we talked about him heavily in our tight end piece when we were talking about the upcoming tight ends in the draft. His body frame is built like a tall wide receiver, and the way he moves, so he can be dangerous in the offense if they use him right. And because I don't think he's a good blocking tight end. I don't think that's what you're going to use him for. You're going to use him in the passing game and want him to, get them seam routes and those go routes. So if they do that, then I think he'll win. They'll win at that pick in the first round.
And they got Will Tye, so he's their blocker. He's a big old guy. So I mean, this guy's definitely just added as another weapon for Eli to throw to.
I agree with that. So I don't know. I still don't necessarily know why they went past David Njoku for Evan Ingram. I guess they fell in love with his combine and just performance numbers this offseason. This was very surprising. Yeah. Well, as we talked about on on Friday's show, we were all just like, what? So, but he will be a contributor. He is a very speedy pass-catching tight end, but just a lot of mouths to feed there in New York. Backup quarterback Davis Webb could be the guy for the future. I'm not too concerned about Wayne Gallman as a running back for them. Well, I guess I should go down the list. I just realized we didn't. We started talking about Evan Ingram. Yeah. In the second, defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson. In the third, quarterback Davis Webb. In the fourth, they got running back Wayne Gallman. In the fifth, they got defensive end Avery Moss. And in the sixth, they got offensive tackle Adam Nawati? I don't know.
You got it. There's Nawati.
Hey, look at me. So they technically addressed all their needs except for linebacker. So I don't know. I'm not wild about this draft, but I do think Evan Ingram will be a contributor there. Though I'm still perplexed as to why they kind of reached for him over drafting David Njoku, who we all thought was the consensus number 2. They must have seen something they really liked.
Right. Well, that's the crazy thing about the draft. I mean, you get teams that will see somebody that they absolutely love, and they'll go ahead and grab them. And other teams will go shake their head and go, what did we miss? So in this case, it's a bit of a reach, but you know what? He is a first-round talent, in my opinion, so not horrible reach.
I would agree with that. Moving on to CJ's Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
So Philadelphia, my goodness, what a draft you guys put on. That was pretty impressive.
Was it? I loved it, man. It was very fun.
It was a very successful event. They were listed as needing running back help, wide receiver help, defensive line help, linebacker help, and cornerback help. In the first, they drafted defensive end Derek Barnett. In the second, they drafted cornerback Sidney Jones, the top corner in the draft. But, of course, a torn ACL means that he will not be seen until next year. So, I don't know. I kind of felt like that was a reach. But, I mean, if you guys really wanted him, that was the time to probably snag him. Because someone was probably going to get him before you guys came around again.
I agree with you. But when you look at that position, you look at where they were at. I really thought they were going to go Dalvin Cook there, but of course, he got picked up by the Vikings, and I think that they actually would have went that route if he wasn't picked up by the Vikings. But when you look at that value there, you look at the board, you see what's going on. You look, even with the injury, you see that this is a first round talent, and you're going to get a steal because you see the potential, you see what he does on tape. And even if the medical is saying that he possibly could play this year, I know you don't want to risk it, but even if he does get cleared, you got him. If he doesn't, hey, look, you got a starting cornerback next year, and he's 20 years old. So that's
too short of a turnaround. But it was definitely between Jones and Lattimore as the top corner. So you guys got a steal here in the second. I mean, especially down the line. I don't see him playing this year. I just don't think that'd be smart.
No.
In the third, you guys got cornerback. How do you say that name?
Rasul Douglas.
Thank you, Rasul Douglas. I need new glasses. In the fourth, wide receiver Mac Hollins. They got also running back Donald Pumphrey. In the fifth, they got wide receiver Shelton Gibson. They also got safety Nate Gary. And in the sixth, they got defensive tackle Elijah Quales. So, all in all, they... What? Oh, Qualls. Yep.
Qualls.
Sorry. They addressed all their needs except for linebacker. So all in all, I would say a strong draft. They did a pretty good job picking up talent as it was available to them.
The guy that we got from Nebraska, we're actually moving him to linebacker when camp starts.
Are you?
Yeah, he's better. He's better going downfield than switching his hips as a safety. He's not that good for that.
So moving from defensive back to linebacker, we'll see how that plays out for sure.
Yep.
But I mean, it's still a strong
Pumphrey's
draft.
really good in the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pumphrey was really good in the fourth. Yeah, he's going to be. Yeah, he is. He's a little Darren Sproles clone. And then Rasul Douglas. I really like him. My only issue with him, and probably the reason he wasn't targeted by Arizona, not the fastest corner you've ever seen, but he's definitely a very smart, very good physical football player. So you guys got some real good gems here.
Very commonly referred to as a very long defensive back. So
yes, he is.
Yes.
Hey, it works for you, and he will fill in nicely until Sidney Jones is healthy. So, moving on to the last team in the division, the Washington Redskins, which they had a lot of picks. I don't know why they had so many picks, but they had a lot of picks. Their listed needs were quarterback, which, go figure, they didn't address. Running backs, safety, wide receiver, and linebacker. In the first, they got defensive end Jonathan Allen, which is a insanely good pick. I still am a little bit upset that we didn't draft him one spot ahead, but we needed defensive back help, I guess, more than defensive end. Outside linebacker Ryan Anderson, who is also a pretty big beast edge rusher. In the third, they got cornerback Fabian Moreau. Thank you. I'm ready to go to bed. In the fourth, they got running back Samaje
Perine.
Perine? That's
Perine.
Interesting name.
Yep. Good player.
Why don't I know his name?
Yep.
I watched his
tape. We talked about him.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I remember watching his tape. I don't know. Fourth round, they also got safety Monte Nicholson. In the fifth, they got tight end Jeremy Sprinkle. In the sixth, they got center. Thank you. Chase Ruler. I think so you say it. In this, they also got Roulier. IER. Roullier. Maybe. I don't know. I don't contest to be good at names. They also got wide receiver Robert Davis. And in the seventh, they got safety Josh Harvey Clemens and defensive back Joshua Holsney. I don't know. He's not even rated. He's so low down there. Holsney.
And they had a lot of picks.
Yeah, they got a lot of picks. I'm very intrigued by where they got all these picks from. So they moved around a little bit, to be fair. So what are your guys' thoughts here? Because I have not heard a definitive thought process from most places where they rate the Redskins.
I think they
Solid.
Solid. Yeah, I agree with Jason. It's a solid pick. I like the Simi P. Ryan pick. If they're looking for a replacement, and I know they're shopping around when it comes to their running backs. He's that guy. He reminds me of a Maurice Jones-Drew. I think he's a good between the tackles guy. I think that's going to be good for their offense, and it keeps Kirk Cousins from having to throw the ball, too much. So that I like that. On the defensive line, I think that's a good. Jerome Allen's a great pickup to put on the other side of Kerrigan. That's going to be good for the defense. And then the other picks they did, they're good upside guys, so they can probably make some good work with.
I'm not wild about that.
Monte
center.
Nicholson, the center. Yeah, well, he's 6th round, so they didn't spend a whole lot on him, and they had 2 6th-round picks, so
True.
Not too bad. But Monte Nicholson and Jeremy Sprinkle, both really good picks at 4 and 5, for the 4th round and 5th round. I mean, Jonathan Allen, we thought he was like the number 2 guy, in this draft. In fact, he dropped all the way to 17. That's a steal for the Redskins.
Yeah.
Ryan Anderson's a beast. He's gonna help them out a lot. Fabian Moreau, I really like. He is still recovering from pectoral surgery, but when he's healthy, he is going to be very helpful to them in that secondary. So overall, this is a solid draft in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so we are halfway done, gentlemen. How you feeling?
Oh,
Yeah.
good grief.
Let's keep going.
It's a lot of stuff to get
Can
through.
we just pause? Can we pause here and then maybe pick up next week?
No, we keep going. Unless you want to end the show, and we could pick up the rest on Friday. I'll
be fine with that.
you guys want to push the rest on Friday? We're already at an hour and a half.
I mean, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's move it on to Friday, baby. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Give the listeners a chance to
be
clear their
continued.
heads.
Digest.
Let's do like Scorpion. Let's be like Scorpion and do some to be continues. You know what I mean?
Okay, so
Dude, I love me some Scorpion, by the way.
we got done the North and we
Right.
got done the East, so I guess we'll push things. So
there you go.
and I'm okay with that because the only way we're going to fit this in a reasonable amount of time is if I was able to read all these names accurately, and B, we literally just went name. This was the needs. They got these guys. Moving on, but of course we want to break things down, and I think the listeners. That's what they want. That's been the common thread through Twitter and all the questions we receive. What are you guys' thoughts on this, that, the other? So, it's what we do. So I guess that's going to do it for us today. So make sure you guys tune in on Friday where we will not be talking winners and losers. We'll, I guess, push that later. And we'll finish our review of the draft. We have to finish the South and the West. So a lot of stuff to still get to. If you guys do enjoy the show, please make sure you subscribe and rate the show. If you guys give us a rating, we're happy to give you guys a shout out on the show. Read it, good or bad. We prefer good reviews. We work hard. But if there's things you think we can improve on, let us know. I mean, it doesn't have to be through a review. You can contact us through many different means. Facebook, Twitter, email, thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. I really need to get the website emails going, don't I? And of course, following us individually on Twitter, of course, the show at the FF Fanatics. That's where we get the most of our traffic. But you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ is at CJHickman89. And Jason is at JaceCabrera13. And we're going to move on to our Patreon show, where we're going to talk a little bit more probably about the IDP prospects. So that should be fun. So any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
Guys, I hope
This has been Bryce N. Palmer. This has been Kidge Hype Man and Jason Cabrera signing off.
I don't know what that was,
Wow.
but okay.
Taking a shot at me, but sounding
I love.
Griffin.
Oh, is it Griffin? So good.
You just
that
got
went right over your head, CJ. Holy crap.
It did. It did.
All right.
Okay.
With that, we're out of here, everyone. Take care. We'll see you on the Patreon show. If not, we will see you on Friday where we will wrap this up. Take care, everybody. Have a good week. Bye.
Life in the fast lane.
Right back.
This is
Palmer.
This has been amazing. Shit.
This was one of the better ones. Enjoy the
Butcher name.
You guys know I am bad with names. I always have been.
I know.
Always.